Browns are a legitimate franchise.
Yes.
Now, like for 3/4 of my life, we have been a dumpster fire, and I'm not dumb. I'm not too afraid to admit that. Like if you've paid any attention,
we've lived it.
We've lived it. We've been a dumpster fire, but since the drafting, and it goes all the way back to Baker Mayfield. Like, and I'm hard on Baker as much as anybody, but drafting Baker Mayfield, bringing in a Jarvis Landry and a Myles Garrett and a Nick Chubb, and these dudes set the foundation. And not everybody's still here. Jarvis isn't here anymore. Some people want to know if we think we should bring him back. We're going to get into that. Remind us in the chat. Baker's not here anymore, but it can't be undervalued. Like what kind of stability and a little bit of attitude, and just like the fact that like he liked Cleveland, at least at first, you know, and being in Cleveland was seen as a positive thing with Baker Mayfield. And like, that's the culture change. And then you bring in Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, and they're smart guys, and they start building a culture. Like, there's no way you can look at the Browns franchise anymore and consider them a dumpster fire. They're just not. You're not a dumpster fire if you make the playoffs two out of 4 years. And in the 2 years you didn't make it, you had an injured Baker Mayfield and a backup Jacoby Brissett for 11 games. Like you're not. Teams go from first to last and last to first all the time. There's so much parity in the NFL. But 2 out of 4 years making the playoffs, winning 10, now 11 games, like and I think the front office and the coach, we're going to have a 2-time coach of the year out of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Like the league, just the way the league is going to look at the Browns after this season is completely different than any way that they've ever been looked at in our entire lives. We're finally building a culture, a consistency. Like guys like D'Anthony Bell are undrafted free agents 2 years in a row on this team now. We used to not be able to keep draft picks 2 years in a row. You know what I mean? But then D'Anthony Bell is undrafted, and he starts last year only special teams. And then this year he's special teams, and he's getting sprinkled in on defense. And now we're asking this guy to go out and start at safety. And he's a key contributor. And it's because we've grown him, and we've like nurtured his growth as a player, and we've developed him, and now he's all bought into Cleveland.
And he's flourished.
You know what I mean? Like, and we got buy-in from everybody, top to bottom. Whenever they hired Stefanski and Andrew Berry, the biggest thing everybody kept saying was like alignment. They wanted top to bottom alignment, everybody to have like one goal, same mindset, one direction. There wasn't a coaching staff that wanted this guy and a GM that wanted this guy and an owner that wanted this guy. Like, they wanted cohesion, and you're seeing the effects of that take place. I think you have to credit Jim Haslam and Dee Haslam. Like, they were new owners when they first bought the team, and they made a ton of mistakes.
Oh, yes.
A ton of mistakes. But the dude also was willing to admit when he made mistakes, and he was willing to pony up the cash to pay for them. And I feel like he has stayed out of football stuff much more. Like, he hired DePodesta and Barry and Stefanski, and finally he's like, these guys are smart. I'm going to let these guys do the job I hired them to do, and I'm going to not pressure them. And, you know, that's got to be a 1-year turnaround, or they're fired and stuff like that. I mean, look at, like, how can Carolina get anything done? You know what I mean? Back-to-back years fired.
They got a long road ahead.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, we're not like that anymore. Stefanski and Barry are going to be here a long time.
Yes. I mean, Kevin being the first Browns head coach to take the team to multiple playoff appearances since Marty Schottenheimer in 88.
Yeah.
That's a long freaking time. And I love what you were saying about the franchise. And, you know, as a fan base, like, you always love the team. Like, growing up, I've been a Browns fan my whole life. Like, you always love the Browns. You root for the Browns, but you're not always proud of the Browns. You know, I've experienced that. We've all experienced that our whole lives. Just not always proud to be like, oh yeah, I root for the Browns whenever somebody asks. And it's changing.
Is there not a deserving fan base? I feel like my life, I've always had to defend my fanhood to the Browns. I've had so many people in my life tell me, why do you root for them? You know what I mean? Why haven't you changed your mind? Why haven't you went to a different team? It comes down to the love of Cleveland, really, and Cleveland sports in general. But I think that it's very just exciting just to see this is what we've waited for. Obviously, there's been a couple seasons sprinkled in, 2020 and 2002, but there hasn't been a lot of it. So just to experience this season and just all the adversity and injuries, there's not a more deserving fan base for this to happen to. And maybe let's just see what happens. Maybe we're just getting started, and hopefully we're just getting started.
Yeah, and the fans.
Hot dang.
Hot dang.
The fans are just starting to believe too, because when you see the Browns and the stability, you can see the player development, and it's something we never went through, because they're like driving up here, just listening to the radio. What did we do? They bought the team. I think they basically kept Shermer for what, half a year? He got fired. Yeah. Then we had Chazinski, 1 year, fired. Yep. You know, for some reason, Hugh Jackson was the longest tenured coach under the Haslam regime.
I think they started to realize you can't just keep firing coaches, but then they picked the wrong one to, execute that thought process with.
And then Freddie Kitchens, like, it was a miracle.
Back
they
to
won
the 1 year.
6, wins and the 1 year. And now we have these, all these guys were in the mentality, like when Stefanski lost or had a losing season after his coach of the year, we got to get rid of him. We got to start over again, because everybody's in that mentality as a fan base. But what you saw is he laid the foundation down, and holy smokes, guys, where did they go for training camp again? The Briar? Yeah. Sign them up again, please. Because this is working. But you can see like the brotherhood with the players, and it makes a huge difference, the fact that they got guys picking up each other after every play and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's like you said, permeating through, and they have a culture now where we were the culture of restarting.
That's a great point, because you think about it, a lot of the guys that are making huge impacts right now on the team, Joe Flacco, Kareem Hunt, these guys weren't with the team back then, but it was the culture that the team built then has just, like you said, it's come through the entire season, and it just spills over. These new guys come in off the street, and instantly they're like, yeah, I'm bought into this.
Yep.
Because this is pretty legit.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.